Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating piece of biblical logic, the concept of the ransom. We're going to look closely at the exact mechanics of how a massive historical loss was ultimately perfectly balanced out. Picture an enormous scale of justice, like the old school balance scales. Well, how do you tip that scale back to perfect equilibrium when something of infinite value gets lost? It requires a highly specific, flawless solution, and honestly, the logic behind it is just completely captivating. So let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly wrap our heads around the theology here, we first have to understand the core problem itself. Way back, very early in human history, a massive deficit was created, and it demanded an exact solution. But what exactly is a ransom in this specific context? And why was there such an absolute, totally non-negotiable need for one? Well, in modern, everyday terms, we usually think of a ransom as, money paid to a kidnapper. But looking at our source material, a ransom is defined as the price paid to bring about atonement and reconciliation. From Jehovah's standpoint, this ransom is literally the fundamental mechanism that provides the basis to restore what was lost. So it's not just a simple financial transaction. It's about complete, absolute restoration. It's basically the only way to fix a broken equation and reconcile two parties. And here is where that scale of justice analogy really comes into play. The requirement to fix this mess isn't just any old price. You can't just dump a mountain of gold or silver onto the scale and call it a day. To bring about true atonement, the requirement is incredibly strict and unforgiving. It must be a price of exactly equal value. To perfectly balance out that scale, the payment has to match the loss with total precision. Nothing more, nothing less. We need exact symmetry here. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer magnitude of the deficit. Think about what was actually lost in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve didn't just lose a really beautiful garden. They lost their perfect human life, along with the prospect of living forever. That is an incredibly heavy weight sitting on just one side of the scale. So what's required to balance that out? Right, a price of equal value. You literally have to buy back exactly what was forfeited, which means a perfect human life with the prospect of eternity. Now, this isn't just some abstract idea we're imposing on the text. It's anchored directly in the source material itself. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 6 specifically describes this as a ransom of equal value. That establishes the exact, rigid rules for the payment. The justice system here is absolute. The universe's ledger literally demands perfect, flawless accounting to settle this debt. Section 1. The 3 strict requirements. Think about how incredibly difficult it would be to find someone, anyone, throughout the entirety of human history who could actually pay this specific price. Let's count out the exact conditions. First, the price could only be paid by an adult man who was perfect. That alone automatically rules out every single human being born after Adam. Second, because he was perfect, he had to have the potential of living forever on Earth. He had to possess the exact same asset that Adam lost. And third, he had to be completely willing to give up or sacrifice that precious life for us. Only an adult man meeting these exact 3 conditions simultaneously could ever hope to balance this equation. Section 2. How Jesus paid the price. Now watch how these qualifications map perfectly over the requirements we just discussed. It is a deeply satisfying, mirrored symmetry. Reason number 1, Jesus was perfect. Reason number 2, because of that perfection, he had the very real potential of living forever on Earth. He held the exact asset that was lost in Eden. And reason number 3, he was entirely willing to die and give up that perfect life for us. The puzzle pieces fit together flawlessly. And to validate that first, absolutely critical point, the text provides direct scriptural proof. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 22 states clearly, "He committed no sin." This completely confirms Jesus' absolute perfection. He didn't carry that inherited deficit that the rest of humanity was burdened with. His side of the scale was perfectly clean, which made his life a valid, uncorrupted currency for this massive transaction. But, having the currency isn't quite enough on its own. You have to actually be willing to spend it. And that brings us to the climax of this logic found in the book of Hebrews. The text highlights his ultimate willingness, noting that he was willing to die and give up that life for us. Actually, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 10 reveals the staggering result of this willing sacrifice. It says, "We have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all time." The transaction was completed. The scale was finally perfectly balanced. So, we've walked through the mechanics, the incredibly strict requirements, and the profound logical symmetry of this theological concept. I want to leave you with this thought to deeply consider. Knowing the exact, immeasurable value of what was lost in Eden and the equally immense price that was voluntarily paid to restore it, how will you show appreciation for this perfectly balanced scale? It's a seriously compelling piece of logic that invites all of us to reflect on the sheer magnitude of that restoration. For more information, please visit jw.org. And hey, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon to get notified for our next explainer. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this material today.